Good morning, Rose. How are you? Good. Looks like not what I told for a Monday morning, I would say. Better than usual.
Good morning, everybody. Welcome to this very special event of the Cheshire and Warrington launch of the consultation for our Fair Employment Charter. For those who don't know me, my name's Louise Gittins and I'm leader of Cheshire West and Chester Council. And I'm going to be co-hosting this morning with Cllr Sam Corcoran from Cheshire East Council. Next slide, please. Sarah Lynn, next slide. Thank you. So just a quick summary of what we're going to be doing this morning. I'm going to do a brief introduction. I'll hand over to Sam, who'll say a few words, and then we'll hear from Claire Haywood, who is the chair of our local enterprise partnership. We will have a number of panel discussions where you'll hear from some experts, and then we will take any questions that come up. So please use your Q&A function for your questions. And also to let you know that we are recording this morning, and the final recording will go onto our Cheshire and Warrington webpage for the consultation. Next slide, please. So just a bit of context about Cheshire and Warrington and where we sit. We're strategically placed between three huge devolved areas. So we've got the whole of the Northern Powerhouse, including Liverpool City region and Greater Manchester. We've also got Wales, and to the south we've got the Midlands. So we're a really important area. We've got nearly 1 million people that live within our Cheshire and Warrington, and about 78% are employment, so that's over 500,000 people, sorry, 78% of our working age population. And we've got over 50,000 businesses in our area. And we also benefit from the strength and depth of the types of businesses and the range of sectors across the region, including finance, business services, manufacturing, distribution and logistics, energy, environment, life sciences, and many others. And we've got a real opportunity for future green growth. Next slide, please. So why do we need a fair employment charter? So despite all the benefits that we have as a region, we also have a number of challenges. Too many jobs are paid lower than the local living wage, which creates in-work poverty. Fuel poverty in particular is an issue, with over 11% of our households in fuel poverty. We've got real health inequalities, a difference right across the region, with life expectancy, the difference up to 10 years. Too many people experience poor mental and physical health, which affects their ability to secure and keep a job. And there's lack of flexibility in terms of what work looks like, and that leads to a lack of diversity of employees and limits recruitment options. And not all jobs are accessible as they could be for those that need them. And really importantly, there's a poor cross-region connectivity. So why do we need a fair employment charter? What are the benefits? So if we go on to the next slide, please. So we know that overcoming these challenges is vital, both for individuals, their families, the wider community, and for our businesses. So fair employment practices such as accessible work, fair pay, employee development can make a business more attractive to job seekers, current employers, customers, and potential investors, and can really improve an organisation's prospects over the longer term. Increasing pay at the lower end of the labour market and narrowing the pay gap can help increase collective motivation and productivity. And there's some really great evidence that demonstrates this. There's a good book called The Spirit Level, if you haven't already read that. But we know that a recent survey of over 1,000 companies globally by McKinsey found that the most ethically and culturally diverse companies outperform the least diverse companies by 36%. So what's in our Fair Employment Charter and how are we developing it? Next slide, please. So we know a number of other areas within the North in particular have developed fair and good employment charters, and we've looked at these and come up with a draft of what we think will be appropriate in Cheshire and Warrington. And our draft identifies 5 areas that we think an employer could commit to. Fair pay and secure employment. That includes paying at least the local living wage or a real living wage, guaranteed hours of 16 hours a week or more, fair working conditions with robust contracts and extended terms and conditions, and safe places of work which are free from harassment, bullying and discrimination. To have a truly accessible employment with inclusive access for everyone, regardless of their background, and flexible working arrangements in terms of when, where and how they work. Really important, workforce well-being, including high standards for health and safety, and a genuine focus on promoting the best possible mental and physical health for their employees. Employee development and fulfillment, and making sure that employees and their managers are not only supported to reach their potential, but empowered to shape the future of the organisations they work for, and are encouraged to give back to their communities through the voluntary and faith sectors or other good causes. And finally, workplace engagement and voice with clear mechanisms in place to enable staff to influence key aspects of their role and how the wider company operates. So the charter is a framework for employees to sign up to. It identifies areas of best practice that will support them to become a true employer of choice. And so the framework is subject to the consultation that we're launching today, and we will take into account all of the feedback that we get over the coming months, and the charter will be launched properly later in the year. So if we go on to the next slide. And so really importantly is about promoting an inclusive economy. And together in Cheshire and Warrington, we have an ambition to create the most inclusive possible economy that we can. And we've already started working on this through our Cheshire and Warrington Sustainable and Inclusive Growth Commission. And for example, in Cheshire West and Chester, we've have an inclusive economy strategy in place. Building a diverse workforce that's accessible to every community across the sub-region can only benefit us all, supporting organisations, reinvigorating staff, helping people into meaningful employment, and making sure that we continue to grow as an economy and as a society. There are plenty of challenges that we need to address, but together we can provide people with the skills they need to find work, link them effectively to the jobs that businesses need, and importantly, keep them motivated to stay in those roles and have a sustained positive impact on the success of our local organisations for the benefit of everyone. So final slide is thank you very much again for being here today and giving up your Monday morning. And I'd like to hand over to Cllr Sam Corcoran from Cheshire East Council. Sam.
So good morning, everyone. I'm Sam Corcoran, leader of Cheshire East Council. I've also, for the last 2 years, been the co-chair of the Sustainable and Inclusive Growth Commission. Now, I like names that tell you what they do. So the Cheshire and Warrington Sustainable and Inclusive Growth Commission, you know the geographic area it covers. We want economic growth. We want that growth to be green growth, sustainable. And we also want that growth to involve everyone. So we want it to be inclusive and for everybody to benefit from the growth, reducing inequalities. The Commission has just published its report, and if I can show my one slide, that shows the outcomes of the Commission's recommendations. So, Sarah Lynn, can you show that slide? You can see we had 4 working groups. The main one for today is the top left, which is the inclusive economy. And that came up with several recommendations, including a fair employment charter. So I'm very pleased to see the gathering today to talk about that and how we want to promote inclusive growth and use data to identify the inequalities so they can be addressed and make sure that we do get to the bottom of why there are inequalities and how we can help address them. If I could now hand over to Claire Hayward from the Cheshire and Warrington LEP.
Thank you, Louise. Thank you, Sam. Fantastic that you've all joined us this morning. And this is fundamental. It's absolutely critical to our region, but also more widely the UK, and also more widely the place that we can hold in the global economy. Just to give you a little bit of context, I am the chair of the Local Enterprise Partnership for Cheshire and Warrington, but I also lead a global leadership and culture practice for Accenture, which is probably the largest leadership and culture practice in the world. And we do a huge amount of research in this space. And I just thought I'd share with you a couple of elements which really builds on some of the points that Louise made so very, very clearly in terms of the importance of signing up to a fair employment charter, and also your role as a leader. And it's important to just reflect on every day, we as leaders, the impact that we can be having on our teams. So globally, we engage with 3,200 senior executives, 15,600 workers spanning 15 different industries and 10 countries. And we asked lots and lots and lots of different questions around what is it that really enables your teams to fundamentally contribute. And there were 6 fundamental human needs that came through that work. And for companies to unlock their people's full potential, we've called this research Net Better Off. And it absolutely underpins this work, the Fair Employment Charter, because those 6 dimensions that are important to people are about emotional and mental, their relational elements, their physical elements, the financial elements, whether they feel as if they're in a purposeful employment, and their employability. So what we found from that was 64% of a person's potential is defined by their ability to use their skills and strengths at work, and whether they feel that they are net better off across those 6 dimensions. And a lot of those dimensions are actually covered in this Fair Employment Charter. But what's really important there is, as a leader of an organisation, is how are you going to get everybody's potential, and what difference does that make? And so how do we make sure we're unlocking that? Because unlock that and unlock a person's potential unlocks business potential. So as employers, if we can boost those dimensions and create meaningful and trusting relationships with our employees, you will also see an increase in business performance. So even in today's sort of weak GDP environment for us, we still look at those organisations and they would stand to gain upwards of 5% revenue growth, which is pretty significant. So it's not just about doing the right thing by your people, but it also will make a big difference to your organisation. So we know that we can start to engage with people to make sure that they are able to do that. But I do think as leaders within our organisations, we need to really challenge ourselves about whether we're creating that inclusive and fair environment so that every single day people really believe that they can unlock their potential. Because leaders overestimate by 2 times how connected their people actually feel to their organisation. And only 1 in 6 people actually feel connected to their organisation. So if you look around your teams, really challenge yourselves about how engaged do your people feel, or how fair do they feel they're being treated, and how much do they trust the organisation. So for us to create an economy that is healthy, inclusive, sustainable and growing, it's really, really critical that we start to think about how do we make sure that we are good and fair employers, because that's good for business, it's good for employees, and it is good for communities. So thank you very much, and I shall be handing over, but I understand you can put any of your questions into the Q&A function, so which will be absolutely fantastic. And at the end of that, all of those questions will be collated, and I understand they'll be answered in the FAQ, not FNQ, FAQ section or FNQ later on today. But so please do put your questions into that space. And also very happy to put in some research links as well, so that you can have access to those, because making sure that we understand how the world of work is genuinely changing, and you as leaders have to genuinely think about how we're changing with that, is really important. So I will now hand over.
Thank you very much, Claire. I'm not sure. Oh, yes, we do have a video. So there's a short video, and then we'll go to our first panel. Thank you for that short video. So the next panel we're going to talk about the importance of fair employment, and I'm delighted to have 4 fantastic panelists who are, first of all, going to just take a few minutes to say why they think fair employment is important. I will read out who we've got. So we've got James McKenna, who's the Regional Secretary of the TUC. We've got Dan Maxwell, who is the Regional Training Manager from ACAS, and he's actually helped with the development of the Greater Manchester Charter. We've got Tim Moore, who's the Principal Policy Officer from the Liverpool City region, and Professor Chantal Davis from Chester University. So I'm hoping, James, can you go first, please?
Yeah, of course, and thanks,
Thank
Louise. Thanks, Louise, and others for the invite to talk about this. This is really important to us, and like Dan and others, we're involved in the Charter in Liverpool City region and Greater Manchester, and I think all credit to colleagues in Cheshire and Warrington for wanting to establish an employment charter in the region, and also to go further, because that's where we see employment charters and that need for fair employment. It's very, we have opinions on the world of work as the TUC and as our trade unions, but I think some often think that is a very narrow focus, particularly around pay and other terms and conditions, and it's not. The TUC's mission is very clear. It's in our strapline. We want to change the world of work for good. We want to see those improvements, and we want to see them be long lasting, because we know they have a real big benefit, not just to trade union members, but to workers right across the country. And when you look at the consultation document, and I'd encourage anyone who is watching this to make sure that they do read that consultation document, maybe have a look at what's in place in Greater Manchester and Liverpool City region. The Northwest is genuinely leading the way on these initiatives, and other city regions and other local economic partnerships are looking to follow. They set out some really good standards, way above the minimum standards, and that's what we as the TUC have been calling for a long time. We've wanted to see the government go further, because there are big problems in our economy for workers, whether that's been low pay, 0 hours contracts that have been well established, but about creating a more diverse workforce. Big things we've called on the government to do, and it's brilliant to see local leaders, as we've seen in GM and Liverpool City region, but see local leaders in Louise and Sam and others in Cheshire and Warrington wanting to raise the bar in the area for the people who live and work in Cheshire and Warrington. There are a few areas I want to maybe comment upon about what I think are important on those. you look at that pay gap report, and that's particularly important. We've just had International Women's Day, but we want to go further. We don't want to just see companies reporting on the gender pay gap. We want to see them do ethnicity pay gap report and disability pay gap reporting, because we know, there's a lot of people out there who feel left behind, who don't feel like they're heard, don't feel like they're getting the reward and recognition in the workplace. And pay is a fundamental part of that. Having that pay gap report doesn't fix the problem, but it does give employers a benchmark to do something about it. That clarity of hours, this isn't just about ending 0 hours contracts, but giving people that security of employment. The people we speak to often in work want that certainty. It isn't just about pay for them. It is about that certainty of hours that allows people to plan, not just their day-to-day lives, which is really important, planning childcare, planning social time, things you might want to do with the family, but actually being able to plan for a home. We've all probably seen the housing market at the moment, but anybody on an insecure contract, anyone who's uncertain about their hours is going to find that very, very difficult to get secure housing, particularly if they want to go for a mortgage. That's really important to people, and it gives them that certainty to plan for the future. That diversity in recruitment, too many of our workplaces, are not kind of keeping a record of their recruitment. Too many workplaces, those negative employers are kind of perpetuating stereotypes, certainly around Black and ethnic minority workers, around women, and we can do a lot better than this. And that's where I think these fair employment charters can really set us on a course to doing that, because they're not legal instruments. They don't require employers to do this, but they do reward and recognise those who are doing this. And I think that recognition is really important. I want to reach out to all of those people who aren't doing this. But the best way we've found through being involved in these employment charters and in other work we do as trade unions is to recognise those who are doing well and to share that good practice. Because across Cheshire and Warrington, across the Northwest, and indeed across the country, there are lots of employers who will be doing all of the things that are in those employment charters, or most of the things that are in this employment charter. And they maybe just need a little bit of help. They need a bit of support and a bit of encouragement to go that bit further. And what we've seen in the other examples, and I'm sure we'll see in Cheshire and Warrington, is businesses and employers working together, sharing good practice, sharing how they've done this, and allowing each other to learn to improve standards across Cheshire and Warrington. And that recognition, they deserve that. They deserve that opportunity to say, you know what, we are a fair employer and we're going above the minimum standards as the charter rightly sets out. We're going above those minimum standards, and because we value and recognise the importance of our staff. And that's, sometimes I think people forget as trade unions, our business model as trade unions is we want people in good work. We don't exist if our members aren't in good, sustainable work. And we don't want to raise that bar for our members. We know that benefits the whole workforce, because what we see all too often, and we've seen this in work we've done with young workers, is bad employment practices act as a pull. They act as an anchor on raising the bar for everybody, because people will go to workplaces, experience discrimination and harassment, and will sometimes excuse it because they'll say, but it's not like that other place I work. It's not like that place where my friend or my sister or my brother or my partner works. So it's not great, but they'll compare it to those who are bad. And I want to see us, lift our eyes a little bit. I want to see us look to better and to raise those standards. And I think we can do that through these employment charters. And longer term, the charter's got to come into fruition, but the conversations we're having elsewhere is that we think that in return for signing up to these charters, you should receive some reward. That will come in the form of staff retention, morale, productivity, but also should see you access some public funds, whether that be through procurement or grants and others, as a kind of reward and a return for signing up to this, because I think that's the carrot and the stick approach to this, encouraging people to do it because it's the right thing to do and recognising those who are doing it and rewarding them for doing so and taking that proactive step. We think this is really important. It'll be good for business. It'll absolutely be good for workers, and we'll be responding to that consultation. We think this is really important, as we've seen elsewhere, and we hope other people recognise the importance and the value of this, because I think what we can see through local leadership then is just going above those national norms and those national standards and really leading the way in Cheshire and Warrington and across the Northwest.
Thanks very much, James. That really interesting hearing your perspective of this, and look forward to getting your feedback as well on the consultation. Just a reminder to put questions in the chat. We've got one already, so please use the chat function. Okay, I'm going to hand over to Dan now. Thanks, Dan.
Morning, everybody, and thanks for having us. I think from my perspective, and certainly from an ACAS perspective, and as you know, Jay's already mentioned, I'm sure Tim will go on to mention as well, the fact that more areas in the Northwest are thinking about and getting involved with these charters is only a good thing. The ACAS tagline itself is making work life better for everybody, and that's what these charters do. I'm going to come at this from a slightly biased perception of from the north, from Greater Manchester, because I was lucky enough to be part of that straight from the beginning back in 2018, and some of the challenges that we faced while we got that together. And I think what we found and what was really important with that was making sure that it was as diverse a group of people bringing this together as possible. It wasn't just about the people that you would think, you know, your big businesses, your unions, you know, your ACAS people, councillors. It was about getting people from the voluntary sector, people from hospitality and retail, and having those conversations early on as part of it. Because what I found that we were trying to achieve, and what hopefully you're trying to achieve here as well, is a community and moving this forward. Manchester they launched officially in about 2019, and they've got over 850 employers that have registered an interest with it. We've got 70, 80 members already signed up fully to do it. There are over 400 supporters, and that in total in itself is over 400,000 employees. I mean, this is a massive pot of people that you are reaching and that you are creating, as I say, a community with. Some of the things that they're currently doing now that I've found really helpful and really useful, they have sort of cohort meetings, and they have regular group sessions for their supporters so that people can have that. We've got a bit of an issue here. Actually, it turns out there's probably 10, 15, 20 other employers that have got the same sort of issue. So rather than dealing with that on your own, which you would have done in the past, this charter and these charters allow those issues to be dealt with as a community within the region, and really allow businesses to propel themselves. And, you know, a bit of correct competition. You know, it's not all about who's making the most profits, but actually who's the best employer, you know, because ultimately, as Jay was saying, you know, and as I'm sure Tim will go on to mention for Liverpool, you want to encourage employees to come to your organisation and to work for you because of you are part of this charter and it's recognised. And I think anybody who's thinking of starting this journey, I know it's at the really early stages of it, but hopefully you can get it into fruition and up and running, and the launch is later in the year. But anybody who's involved with it or a part of it, get your employees involved. You know, get those people on the, you know, that are doing this on a day-to-day basis. They're the ones that will tell you whether you're a fair employer or not. You know, I'm part of the technical panel for Manchester. We get the application forms through. I do the same with Liverpool. You know, it's all good and well writing on a piece of paper how good you are. But I know for a fact in Manchester, they go out and they will ask you and ask your employees how good you are. So I think, you know, it's a fantastic opportunity for businesses. It's certainly something that ACAS are more than happy to get involved with at every stage. We will support everybody involved in this in any way we can, and we want this to be better. As I say, you know, our tagline is, you know, better work for everybody, and this is just another step forward with regards to that. So thank you for having us, and yeah, good luck with it.
Thanks very much, Dan. Tim?
Thanks very much, Cllr Gittins, and you know, we really welcome the opportunity to come and speak today for many of the reasons that colleagues have already mentioned. I think from a Liverpool City Region CA point of view, we really welcome other areas coming on the same fair employment journey that we are, and that a number of other areas, both in the Northwest, as Jay mentioned, but further afield as well, because we know that, you know, this shared agenda across geographies isn't just about residents working in one area and living in another. Their workplaces are right across the country, and if we can join more people up on this agenda, then we can really make a difference both within our own areas for our residents, but more broadly as well. And in that sense, we've really been helped on our journey by those other places that have kind of led on this, whether that be GM or the GLA. So we're delighted to be able to offer to do the same for Cheshire and Warrington. As I say, both because that's the right thing to do in terms of sharing learning and experience. But the greater the aggregate size of their employment areas, then I think the bigger the impact and profile we can have as a whole. There's really an opportunity to be greater than the sum of our parts here. And we can build a movement from local areas up that can start to turn the dial, and perhaps as an organisation that's politically led, where our Metro Mayor passionately believes in the value of devolution. And there's an opportunity to show that when local areas work together, then perhaps maybe we can be more effective in driving that change than Westminster and Whitehall might have been in the past. We do recognise that it isn't about everybody having exactly the same charter that looks the same, sounds the same, and has absolutely everything in it that is exactly the same. Of course, there will be lots of shared common objectives, and a number of those have been mentioned already, but the very point of devolution is that our charters will have some differences, and that they will recognise local focuses, local economies and priorities, and different ways of working. And we're really keen to work with both Cheshire and Warrington and those other areas to make sure that we get that balance right, so that our charters reflect what we need them to reflect, but when they come together are really able to make that difference on those key issues that we can all agree on. And I think, as other colleagues have said, it's great that you're going out to consultation on this, because our experience was that consultation is absolutely key to bringing all stakeholders in, and it's kind of great to see the breadth of stakeholders in the chat today, and there'll be more to come responding to the consultation. I know that's key to getting the legitimacy and buy-in and authority right across the landscape for the charter. In Liverpool City Region, our Metro Mayor has always been keen to stress that this is about building a movement. It's really important to highlight the existing practice that Jay mentioned, but actually in some senses, the real test of the charter making a difference is, can you bring an employer with you who perhaps isn't there yet, perhaps isn't doing everything we want them to do yet, but wants to go on that journey and wants to be supported to do it. And that's the way we can kind of make a transformational difference, if employers believe that they can come with us. And the best way to do that is to engage them in a supportive way in the consultation to begin with, so that they recognise that there is an entry level where they can come in and say, okay, I want to do better on this. How can I be supported by other businesses and the charter to do so? And I'm absolutely delighted that we're already seeing that in Liverpool City Region. We're not quite as far along our journey as Greater Manchester, but there are employers that weren't paying real living wage that now are. And there are significant numbers of employers who are now engaging in better practice in terms of, for example, access to trade unions, ensuring employees are informed about right to join a trade union, and so on and so forth. So it's already making a difference in that respect. And if we have that buy-in early on and can make that change, then that really provides a basis for those next steps that Jay talked about, and that our own Metro Mayor is keen to encourage around. Can you link the spend of your organisation to those organisations, those suppliers who you commission and do business with? And we're already taking steps in that direction. In Liverpool City Region, we're inviting and encouraging all organisations who do business with us to become members of the charter. We've piloted a couple of big commissions and procurements to linking it to the charter in terms of inviting organisations to get involved, and it's great to see that that's had some real progress. And we've also got it on our chest as well. So now for every organisation that wants to apply for funding or do business with us, they'll be invited to join the charter. I think the other thing we found in terms of the depth and the length of consultation that we undertook in the city region was the ability to be able to flex and respond to changes in economic reality. You know, obviously it was by accident that COVID happened in the middle of our consultation, and obviously that was unexpected, but that allowed us to react and flex what the charter was looking like to reflect some of those new realities. So it includes a dedicated health pillar, because obviously health was right at the forefront at the time. It now includes some dedicated wording around home working, because we recognise that in one sense home working was fantastic in terms of flexibility, but actually good home working is fantastic. You know, there can be poor practice around home working, and when, you know, stress and musculoskeletal disorders were some of the biggest causes of ill health at work before the pandemic, if it's not done right, there is the risk that home working can exacerbate some of those. So I think, just to conclude, by working locally, you know, we can be more than the sum of our parts. We can tie in with some wider government objectives where we share them, and Councillor Gittins mentioned kind of over 50s earlier. Better workplaces will hopefully bring them further back into the workforce. So delighted to be on the journey. We're pleased to have 72 organisations signed up with over 100 applications received. We've engaged with over 300 businesses, and I've got every confidence that as you go through your journey, you'll be up there with us in terms of those numbers as well.
Thanks very much, Tim, and thanks both to you and Dan for the support that you're giving us in terms of helping us to develop ours. And actually that point about home working is really important, and that's something we'll need to consider as well. Chantal, can I bring you in now, please?
Yeah, I'm conscious of time, so to give us 5 minutes to have some questions, I'll try and get through this as quickly as possible. I'm delighted to be here today because not only am I an academic specialising in equality and diversity, but also I'm an employment lawyer. And also I've overseen a number of different charters in different sectors. And I've also recently sat on the Sustainable and Inclusive Growth Commission. So I'm really excited to see our recommendations feeding through into this Fair Employment Charter. What I thought I'd do is very quickly talk about some of the challenges that I've seen from my research and my work, and then how they can be addressed and how the Fair Employment Charter potentially addresses those. So in terms of challenges I think employers are facing today in terms of equitable and fair workplaces, we've got a number of embedded challenges that COVID has only exacerbated, and the cost of living crisis has exacerbated. So occupational segregation, I think, is a core one. So in spite of improvement in female participation rates in the workplace, we're still seeing kind of huge disparities in terms of patterns of working, with 40% of women working part-time compared to just over 10% of men. That's broadened since COVID. Women are still overrepresented in lower salaried roles and underrepresented in more lucrative employment. We're seeing a lack of female representation in senior roles still, and we can see the same segregation in ethnicity and disability as well. So this, together with an increasingly aging population, we're going to see skill shortages, reductions in output, productivity and growth. So that's a core challenge. We talked about the gender pay gap, haven't we, already? And although we've seen implementation of the gender pay gap regulations, and that's a significant step forward around gender pay disparities, there's no requirement for employers to address the causes of pay gaps. And we're still seeing the gap largest in the higher paying occupations. And the same is true in terms of the ethnicity pay gap as well, which we've already spoken about. Physical and mental health crisis in the workforce, which has been exacerbated by COVID and which has disproportionately impacted on already marginalised groups. So one recent report suggested that 50% of employees have experienced at least one characteristic of burnout since the pandemic. So there's an increasing awareness that employers have got to implement employee wellbeing practices to ensure organisational success. One astounding statistic that I saw from a recent study was that if we can put better mental health support in the workplace, this could save businesses up to £8 billion annually in the UK alone, which I think is incredible. So how can these be addressed? So one of the things that I always bang the drum about here is really about encouraging smarter, not harder, employer action and initiatives. From my research over the last decade, it's clear that often there's frantic overactivity from employers because there's a lack of evidence or support for the actions that they're taking, and that can be really counterproductive on occasion. So I think it's really important that employers look at their own individual context and evidence of the challenges within their own workplace, and then put in place really clear, tailored plans to meet their particular need. Similarly, don't double work or overwork. So if you're collecting data in terms of the gender pay gap reporting, make sure that you're using that for other purposes as well. If you're a public body meeting the public sector equality duty, make sure you're using those actions to support the work that you're doing in other areas. Again, to use all the tools in your arsenal, in your fair employment arsenal, anti-discrimination measures where appropriate, inclusive practice applying to all, but particularly benefiting those who may be marginalised, but also positive action. And this is something that I'm really interested in, targeted, sometimes preference-based action where it is appropriate and where other measures haven't been successful in addressing disadvantage. Apply a life cycle holistic approach. So recognize that one measure isn't going to achieve everything. So there's no point in increasing, for example, representation of women in the workforce if they're then going to face inequalities when they come into the workforce and you're just not going to retain them. Collect better data, use it appropriately, and encourage organizations to work together to support the work that's already taking place. And actually, in conclusion, I think the Fair Employment Charter is doing all of that. I'm really encouraged that it seeks to address those core challenges, certainly from an equality and diversity standpoint. And it also seeks to apply a smart and holistic approach to how employers can meet those challenges. And I'm really excited to see how they feed through during the consultation process as well. I think we've probably got about 5 minutes now for questions, Louise, as well.
Yeah, definitely. And somebody did actually has asked a question about removing barriers to employment. And I think if you could just have one barrier, what do you think that would be that an employer could do to start tackling those barriers that are there?
Yeah, I mean, I think it goes back to this kind of life cycle approach, really. It's this idea that, you know, you need to look at the challenges that face the kind of life cycle within the workforce and seek to address those together, so that you're putting initiatives in place that complement each other rather than kind of putting kind of disparate measures in place that don't really link together. So recognize that whole life cycle challenge that particular groups are facing, and then try and put measures in place that address that whole life cycle. And that's how we're going to kind of feed the measures through, I think. And I do think that the Charter really is looking to do that.
Thank you. So I've got a question for Tim and for Dan. And that is, what do you think the first thing is that an employer should tackle when they start on this journey to becoming a fair employer? And I know, Tim, you mentioned that you've got a number of organisations that have signed up to this that want to go on that journey rather than just a tick box for those fantastic places that are already doing this. So for each of you, what's the first thing that you think an employer could start to do? Tim first.
Okay, I think that's actually quite an interesting question. I think, because it's obviously going to depend on where the employer is in terms of their own existing processes and procedures. For us, some of the key issues are around links with trade unions, but by speaking to our senior Fair Employment Charter officer, what we've found is that a number of employers actually find engaging with the Charter much easier than perhaps they feared, which is a real benefit. And I think the other thing that's notable for yourselves, Cllr Gittins, is certainly for some bigger organisations, especially in the public sector, it might look like it's a huge amount of data that's being asked for, but actually it doesn't take as long as you fear it might be on an intranet already. It is possible to gather it in fairly accessible formats. So I suppose for us, the first thing to tackle is to recognise that it might not be as difficult or take as long as you think it might do. Engage with the people working on the Charter. They're there to help you. They're there to bring you through. They're there to share best practice. and go from there.
Thank you. I like the idea of the network. I think both you and Dan have sort of talked about. Dan, what about from your perspective?
I think from an ACAS perspective, the first thing we would say is sit down with your employees. You know, have that conversation. Look at the charter. Look at the aspects of the charter, and sit down with a group of, you know, across your workforce. Sit down with them and say, what are we doing? What are we doing already that works well? What are the things that actually we need to look at improving on? You know, this is something we want to go for. You know, that is going to be fantastic for your employees. If you sit down and say, we're looking to be part of this charter, we're going to bring in the real living wage. We're going to look at being above and beyond a normal employer. That can only be good for them. That's only going to improve their morale, their productivity. So, you know, from our perspective, from an ACAS perspective, absolutely get your employees involved from the beginning. Sit down, have those conversations. And as Tim says, as James has said, you know, as I've said, you can then establish which points you need to go for, which areas you need to work on, and have that sense of community. You know, the people that are running these charters are not hidden away. You know, they are super helpful, all happy to engage with any employer that wants to start this journey. But yeah, from our perspective, speak to your staff, because they'll make sure whether you're a fair employer or not.
Thanks very much. James, do you want to just add the final word on this one?
No, I think that engagement's really key. And I think just, you know, I think if I'm an employer starting at this, I think, you know, look at those charters. Don't get put off by the word, but, you know, look at, see where you're actually at. And I would bet there's lots of employers doing stuff like this. And there was a mention of SMEs in the comments. My experience in the charters in Greater Manchester and Liverpool City region is lots of the smaller employers are doing lots of this anyway. They maybe just don't have a policy written down about it. And being involved in a process like this can really help people actually see that, you know what, we're actually doing pretty good. And there's lots of big employers as well who, I think, you know, in industries like, you know, hospitality and retail, who don't realise they're doing good on some of this and are actually pretty much there. And, you know, I think that comes to that recognition we talk about, and, you know, creating that ecosystem where people work together is a really good thing. Don't be put off by the words on the page. You know, do a bit of a measure about where you're actually at, and you'll see that you know, lots of people are doing really good things, even if you're just not quite there yet.
Okay, that's smashing. So that's all we've got time for from this panel. Thank you so much for your contribution, and look forward to continue to talk to you over the coming months, and hopefully you'll come back when we launch it properly and in person, maybe later on in the year. So thanks very much. So we are going to move on to the next panel now. I was hoping we'd have time for a poll, but we'll do that later on. So at the end of this panel, we'll hopefully keep to schedule and do a quick poll for you to gauge your sort of feedback from those that are participating. So our next poll is going to focus very much on young people. And I'm pleased that to once again have some fantastic panelists. So I've got Chris Hindley and Owen Salem from the Youth Federation. I've got Jen McDermott, who's Head of People and Culture at Chester Zoo. I've got Graham Phillips, who's from Cheshire Young Carers, and Colin Billingsley from DWP. So Chris and Owen, can I start off with you, please? Thank you. Chris, I'm not sure we can hear you. You look very smart there with your the boxes behind, but just make sure you're unmuted. I don't know if can we do anything from our end to unmute them?
I'll have a little look now. Maybe it's worth, if it would be okay, one of the other panelists starting.
Yeah, so Jen, can we start with you, please? Sorry for jumping in on you. There you go.
No, absolutely fine. Hi, everybody, and thank you so much. It's lovely to be here to talk about this with you today. So what I'd like to share is really our experiences that we've had engaging with the government's Kickstart scheme and also with apprenticeships in the last couple of years. Hopefully Chester Zoo doesn't need too much of a big introduction in this group, but just for those that don't know, in terms of as an employer, we have just over 600 permanent and fixed term members of staff. And we also employ just around 500 seasonal members of staff at varying points throughout the year, obviously to deal with our kind of peak times. So we're a leading conservation education charity, and we're the most visited zoo in the UK. We have a really broad range of departments and roles across the zoo. So I think the one that everybody kind of springs to everyone's mind, we've got our fantastic animal and plant teams. But in addition to that, it takes a lot to kind of run our amazing zoo. So we have a really broad range and diverse range of departments. So we've got our commercial and visitor facing functions. We've got retail, food and beverage. We have all the support functions that you would imagine. So we've got IT, finance, marketing, obviously the people team. And we also have a science and field programs team. So huge array of departments and roles here at the zoo. As you can probably imagine, over the last, for as long as I can imagine, it's a lot of people want to apply to work at Chester Zoo, with it being cited as their absolute dream job. However, we have felt the impact the same as many organisations in the last kind of couple of years, due to kind of the impact of COVID and Brexit and the impact that that's really had on the recruitment markets. So with that in mind, over the last couple of years, we've had a real shift in focus of that kind of early stages of people's career and looking at ways that we can support with that. So one way that we did that was working with the government's Kickstart scheme. So in 2021 into 22, we employed 17 Kickstart trainees across varying departments. Our focus was really on trying to support those employees to gain and develop those real key transferable skills that would set them up for success in the workplace. We put measures in place to really support those individuals. So every applicant received an interview. We created a bespoke pack of information to really set them up for success, because we appreciate that was potentially a very daunting experience. So we kind of worked with them to try not try and catch anyone out, really get the most out of that process. All line managers of Kickstart trainees worked together as kind of a cohort to make sure that we had a consistent level of support and we had a robust training program in place. I'm really pleased to say that it was really successful for us here at the zoo, and 5 of our Kickstart trainees went on to secure post-placement roles with us. And actually one of our trainees, Fraser Crossan, he was awarded Chamber of Commerce Kickstarter of the Year award in 2022. Fraser is now undertaking an apprenticeship within our facilities and development team. So I'd like to kind of share a little quotes that we've got from Fraser about his experience with the scheme. So Fraser said, I believe my Kickstart placement has massively improved my knowledge, skills and employability. It has taken me from a person who was unsure of his future to someone who has a job and a clear path in front of me. Prior to my placement, I had no previous experience of maintenance work and no experience in the work environment and working with a team. I'm now embedded into a team. I've identified joinery to be a trade I enjoy and would like to pursue a career. I've developed joinery skills and general building skills. I learned I was a good problem solver and I can apply this logic quickly when required. I've been able to build a detailed CV that I'm proud of. So we're really pleased. I think Fraser, his journey with Chester Zoo has been really positive and really demonstrates the success you can have with these type of programs. So as I alluded to earlier, we also have done a lot of work with apprenticeships. So we've always had a very, very small number over the years, but we really ramped that up last year. So we now have 23 live apprenticeships across the organisation. A number of those are within our animal and plant teams. And a lot of the rationale behind that is supporting the work we're doing around increasing diversity. So there are a lot of challenges that we've experienced in terms of increasing diversity within that particular kind of sector, so that is really supported with that. We also are seeing certain skills shortages. So facilities and developments of the maintenance team, as I explained, also in areas such as chefs within our food and beverage team. So actually working with apprenticeships is really helping us develop those really key skills that we need for the future, whilst also supporting the individuals to develop their careers. So I think that's everything from me. I'm really excited to be here. I've been following the work in Liverpool and Manchester for a number of years, and this is very, very exciting for us, for our region. And this is absolutely a piece of work that Chester Zoo are really excited to be part of going forward.
Thanks very much, Jen. And I should just add that the zoo's part of our anchor network, so the We Can anchor network, and it's great to have you on board. There was a comment in the chat about Kickstart. Obviously you've had a really positive experience about it, which is fantastic, so thanks very much. Okay, I think we've sorted our technical issues now with Chris and Owen, fingers crossed. So do you want to come in?
Hopefully you can hear us, Louise. Wonderful. Thank you ever so much for inviting us, and we're hugely excited to be here to talk a little bit about Youth Federation and how we help improve pathways to employment. We're a charity based here in Cheshire and Warrington that's really exists to help young people be the best that they can be. The best they can be in the childhood, having a great childhood and being a young person who's got great friends and a safe environment in which to grow. The best they can be as a citizen, helping the community and developing the volunteering and social action skills. And ultimately, the best they can be as an adult, that being as an employer or as an employee. So we do that in a huge number of different ways. Across a wide range of programs. So we run Skills for Life programs, youth group support programs, which both really engage young people and get them on that first pathway to learning new skills and getting the confidence and skills of the future that employers ask for so much. We get young people into social action and volunteering. We've had 20,000 young people from Cheshire and Warrington undertake National Citizen Service over the last few years, learning new skills and getting themselves on a pathway to employment. We provide mental health support, and that's a huge issue for all of our young people, particularly following the pandemic. So supporting young people to overcome those barriers that are holding them back and helping them develop good mental health and well-being. And then we deliver a range of employability programs which cover the whole spectrum, from understanding the jobs of the future. What are those buildings in Alderley Park or in Thornton Science Park? What's going on inside them? What skills will I need to be able to get a role in a job? And then helping young people overcome barriers to get into those roles. So our programs range from just open access events that we run across our patch to get young people just engaged in fun activities and youth work, to our amazing pledge program, which is run in partnership with the Cheshire and Warrington Lab, brings 650 employers together with all of our secondary schools and many of our primary schools to try and be able to get a conversation going between those employers and those schools and all our young people about how they engage all of our young people. So thinking about our motto of trying to get an inclusive, healthy and sustainable community here in Cheshire and Warrington, it's how do we make sure that all the young people of Cheshire and Warrington have the opportunity to be able to be part of that economic success story, whether they've got things that are holding them back or that they come from an underrepresented group within a particular work sector. How do we support them to overcome those barriers? Then we have a range of mentoring programs which really help young people who've got additional barriers that are holding them back from getting the jobs that they require. And then, crucially, in some of our programs, we're able to offer ongoing support to young people once they get a job. Because we understand that getting a job, as we all know, is a real challenge. Keeping the job in that first 6 months, particularly for a young person who's going into the workplace for the first time, can be a real challenge. And so supporting young people during that 6-month period and ensuring that they can overcome that, maybe with goal setting, with help around mental health support, mental well-being support, and then overcoming some of the barriers. So some of our programs allow us to purchase particular equipment or clothes or boots or things that just help them overcome those barriers. We, like Chester Zoo, engage with the Kickstart program, both as a broker and as an employer. So we work with 57 Kickstart placements and employed 18 young people directly ourselves on the Kickstart program. You'd think, as a children's charity, there would be nothing that we wouldn't have known about young people. That was totally wrong. What happened was that it really just changed the whole dynamic of the charity, having young people at the heart of our business, and you're going to hear from Owen in a second, helping us understand better our beneficiary group, helping us with the obvious things. How do we brand better to young people? How do we engage better to young people? But some of the less obvious things, like, why do we keep doing this in this way? We've done it for 10 years. No. Why do you do it like this? So challenging our thinking, really making us think more innovatively and creatively. And I think the Kickstart program really taught us a lot as a children's charity about how young people can really change the dynamic, the creativity and innovation of a charity. Overall, of the young people that completed the Kickstart program with us or with the employers we work with, 30% then went on to actually have a role and a job. That's phenomenal. Any sort of job creativity role, 30% to actually go on. So it's this real success story for us. But more importantly, I've actually got a success story by the side of me. So I'll let Owen tell you a little bit about his journey.
Brilliant. So I was one of the many people to actually benefit a large amount from the Kickstart scheme. And to give you like an idea of how much I benefited, I just want to briefly go over early days. So start off with, so during secondary school, I was always one of those academic lads who was always deemed that he will succeed in life. It will go very well, very easy, doesn't have to worry. That was most definitely not the case. Went to university because what else was I meant to do? I was just saying it was the thing that I just had to do. Halfway through first year, was diagnosed with depression, and then which didn't really get better. During second year, went downhill. Eventually got booted because my attendance was 8%. Because once you're in that hole, going to lectures isn't really the first thing you want to do. So that was great. After university, became unemployed for just over half a year, which doesn't really help when you're already in a massive hole, and it doesn't really help you feel better about yourself. Eventually, the job centre put me in touch with YouthFed through a scheme called the New Futures Scheme. It's an employability programme. We have little weekly meetings in person, and they teach you a lot of employability, which I was sorely lacking, like basic CV skills, interview skills, and a lot of just like general person stuff, like mental health awareness, which benefited me a lot. And other just like simple, nice lessons. And it was great to make me feel connected with a lot of young people who are similar to me, and make me realize that I am not like the only person who feels like this. Eventually, also, the job centre introduced the Kickstart scheme to me. And said, "Oh, Owen, we've got a Kickstart placement with this charity called YouthFed. Have you heard of them?" And I was like, "Yes, they've just kept me sane for like the past 2 years and have basically made me better." So yeah, so I applied for that straight away. Did well to get the placement. There's a 6-month placement, and at the end of that, I was kept on. So I must have been doing something right. I've been here for 2 years now, actually. Really? Yeah. So that's flown by. It's just really great because before the Kickstart scheme, I've had no like experience in the workplace, nothing formal. I had no idea what I was going into. I just thought, oh God, I'm going to a workplace full of people I kind of know, but not really. What do I do? But it was great. It was nice, like gentle intro. I got stuck in with all the work I wanted to do. And it just made me feel a lot better about myself, and it gave me that self-confidence I needed, and like made me there is value to like myself. Otherwise, why would they keep me on and things like that? And I think I benefited a lot from the Kickstart scheme, and I'm very glad that I did it. So thank you very much.
We have benefited hugely from Owen and from the other 9 Kickstarters that we've continued to work with over the years. So what Kickstart showed us was that there are a lot of young people that with extra support and extra help, they could make a huge difference to our organisation. And I think that's what the Third Employment Charter is about, understanding that it's a symbiotic benefit. It's not just one way. We are a better organisation for Owen and Kickstarters like Owen and the other young people that we work with. Thank you, Louise.
Oh, thank you, Chris, and thank you, Owen, for sharing your journey. That was great, and look forward to hearing more stories of how people have benefited from the Fair Employment Charter in the years to come. So I'm going to hand over now to Graham Phillips, who's the Managing Director of the Cheshire Young Carers. Graham, thank you.
Pleasure, glad to be here. And so basically we do what it says on the tin. We work with children who are young carers. So I think for employers, I mean, if you're looking for people, young people who are experienced at taking the initiative and experienced at effective decision making, experienced at handling pressure, experienced at time management, well, I know where 40,000 of them are in Cheshire. Because the estimate is there are 40,000 young people aged between 6 and 18 who are young carers. And they will be young carers on a spectrum of care. Some of them will be doing things that are slightly more than what you would expect a normal child to do. And unfortunately, we have some who are in completely dysfunctional families, usually affected by substance misuse of one description or another. So we work with as many of these children as we can within the limits and the boundaries of the funding we have available. But we run 3 programs. One is with education, where we work with schools to help them identify children who are young carers. Most young carers are totally hidden, both in education and the workplace, in truth. So we work with schools to identify them. Once there's a child who is identified as potentially a young carer, we have an assessment tool. That assessment tool looks at their caring role and produces an estimate of what the impact on their educational outcomes are. So nationally, young carers are about 9 grades below peer group at GCSE. So it's not unsurprising that a lot of them don't want further education. And having said that, we have some very, very bright children who have ambitions to be barristers and doctors and the likes. We then run a respite programme where we organise a range of activities. And the whole point of that is to give them a break from that caring role. That caring role might be that they're looking after an adult or a parent with disability of one description or another. It is often that they are effectively part of a small caring team within the family, looking after a sibling who might be physically disabled or on the spectrum of one description or another. The key bit about the respite is it gives them the break, but more importantly, it creates friendship groups where they feel safe and trusted because nobody judges them, because they all know they've got their own individual issues at home. And then we have a small welfare operation that looks after our most challenging children and families and gives them whatever support we can. As part of all of that, we have an interwork programme. And with that, we take our teenagers and we take them into places of work to try and broaden their horizons and their expectations about the sorts of jobs that they could have. Chris earlier on mentioned the pledge, and we've been involved with the pledge from the very early days. And part of my team will attend all the local meetings. And the pledge is bringing together, people in education, people in the workplace, and their main role really is to try and identify and bridge this skills gap between what employers want and what educators are providing. And we sort of go in the middle of that. But we've had some real success in working with the pledge. So as an example, last summer we did a program where we took a group of these teenagers to Bank of America in Chester. They went out to their workforce and said, well, has anybody got any experience of working with people who are carers? They were absolutely inundated. They had absolutely no idea how many people they had in their workforce who had been a young carer or were currently a carer. But that meant that each one of these young carers got a one-to-one with somebody from Bank of America. And they did things about financial planning and whatever. One of the outputs of that day was that one of these young carers was fast-tracked to one of their apprenticeship programs, which was a real win. The other thing during the summer last year, the pledge organised some internships, and the reason for that was to try and get people who have gone away to university to consider coming back to Cheshire to use the skills they've acquired in university. These were match funded. We took 2 of those places. One of the interns worked on our developing our programs around volunteers and supporting them. The other worked on our volunteer on our education program, and they both produced some really, really good work that we've now been starting. We've started to and are implementing within the work that we do. So, I mean, basically that's what we do. I mean, what I would say about, for employers who are looking at youngsters who may come their way who are young carers, first of all, you probably won't know that they're a young carer because they don't come and tell you. And it's very rare I speak at any event where there's 20 adults or more, where at the end of it, one of them doesn't come up and say, I never realised I was a young carer until I heard you. And I would suggest that any of you who are employing more than 20 people, go and ask, and I think you'll be stunned at the number of people in your workforce who have been young carers and I've never talked about it to anybody. So that's what we do. In terms of if you're ever coming across somebody who's a young carer and you want any help or advice, I'm more than happy, and my team are more than happy to help. And it's good. I mean, we've done quite a lot of work with youth. Jen at Chester Zoo, we had their outreach team over the last school holiday period where they had 30 of our young carers digging in mud, looking for bugs and whatever. So yeah, really good. Glad to be here. And I wish you success with this. I think it's really important, and I accept that young carers are a very small part of this, potentially this whole policy. But I just underline the fact that we currently know there are probably around 40,000 of these children who are young carers with incredible life skills that as an employer, I normally would give my right arm for. So if you come across any of them, give them a chance. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Graham. That was really insightful. And finally, I've got Colin Billingsley from DWP. Colin. I did see Colin a few minutes ago. So is he still with us? Oh, there he is. Yeah, Colin, can you come in? Unmute. That's brilliant. Thank you.
How's that, Louise? Can you hear me okay?
Yeah, brilliant.
Okay.
Thanks.
Good morning, everyone. Colin Billingsley from DWP. I know I've only got a minute or two because we want to leave as much time available for questions. Delighted to be part of this consultation event launched today. I see the Fair Employment Charter as a key enabler for us. And DWP, people will know, help people looking for work, help people progress in work, and also support employers recruit and develop the workforce. And that's really where this Fair Employment Charter is going to be in our view. Just a little bit of reflection on what's been said there on support for young people. Young people continue to be a top priority for us in Cheshire, looking to help those young people get that first job, maybe progress in the labour market, develop a career. Employers have a key role in that. And I know that, fantastic examples with Kickstart. So my next point for anybody on the call today, what can we learn from Kickstart? Employers changing the recruitment practices, looking at young people's potential and attitudes rather than perhaps the traditional, have they got this set of qualifications? And then also, as we progress forward with other customer groups, people looking for work, the support that's out there for people who are over 50, for example, we've heard a lot about that recently. Also people with health and disabilities, many of them want to work, and how can employers be flexible to help support that? And then myth busting as well, Louise, about what's going on in the labour market and what jobs are really about. So suffice to say, from our perspective, a key enabler, want to be part and parcel of all of this work going forward, and offer to employers all the help that they need from the job centre to help with to develop and grow their businesses. So I'll finish there, but happy to take questions in the discussion forum, Louise.
Okay, thanks very much, Colin. We are actually running out of time on this session, so we might not have time for questions to go around all, but I think what's been really clear, first of all, with the young people, the pledge that's already in place, we need to look to see how we can incorporate that. And I think there's some really good partners here that we need to continue working with as we develop this. What I'm going to suggest is, because we haven't had any proper audience participation yet, is Sarah-Lynn, can you put the poll up so that people delegates can answer? So where is your organisation on its fair employment journey? And you can tick one of these: just starting, evaluating options, improving, or established. So we can't vote as panelists, so it's for the audience to do that. Okay, so there we go. Oh, that's really good, actually. Improving, that's excellent. I mean, this sort of you know, summarises what we've heard so far, that there are many employers already that are already doing many of these things, and that was fantastic, so thank you very much. Okay, so thank you very much, panelists, and that's my session over with as co-hosting this, and I'm going to hand over to Cllr Sam Corcoran from Cheshire East to run the rest of the session this morning. Thank you all.
Thank you, Louise. I mentioned before that I like names that tell you what they do, and there's another advantage with snappy titles, that if you search on Cheshire and Warrington Sustainable and Inclusive Growth Commission, you do get straight to the Sustainable and Inclusive Growth Commission documents. Similarly, if you search on Cheshire and Warrington Fair Employment Charter, you will get through to the Fair Employment Charter documents and the consultation document. One of the things about Cheshire East is the health inequalities across the area. So there's a 12-year discrepancy in life expectancy for men between Cllr Central, which has the lowest life expectancy, and Sandbach Heath and East, which has the highest life expectancy, and a 12-year discrepancy just over those 4 miles of separation. And I contacted the ward councillor for Sandbach, Etley Heath and Wheelock to say, you know, why is there such a difference between the life expectancies? And she came back with a really good answer of, it's a friendly place, so there's good mental health. You see people walking around and cycling, good active travel. There's opportunities to get fresh fruit and vegetables, so you've got access to a good diet. And there are green spaces that are easily accessible. And there's good employment nearby. Now, all of those things have a massive impact on health. I haven't mentioned the NHS at all there. The NHS actually only accounts for 20% of the impact on life expectancy. So there is an importance there for what we are doing through good employment and good lifestyles on people's life expectancies. So where's Cheshire East Council on its journey? Well, we've got a social value policy in place, and that's available from cheshireeast.gov.uk, and you can search on what we're doing to try and promote social value, not just in our own employees and our own employment, but also promoting that through procurement, how we are encouraging our contractors to put in place social value. We've also got a military covenant, so ex-armed forces people, how do we support them in their journeys? And mental health is critical to this. The implications on physical health from mental health and also vice versa are immense. Mental health and physical health are inextricably linked. And good jobs is crucial to mental health and physical health. And it's not just pay, it's also the, as we've been discussing, the factors around it. How much do people feel involved in their work? Do they enjoy their work? Do they feel fulfilled by this? This session has been billed as the Cheshire East journey so far, but from the poll that we've just seen, I would regard us as still being at the start of our journey. And that's why I would encourage people to respond to the consultation through the links that will be circulated at the end to show how do you want to take this forward. And particularly, one of the questions I have for the businesses here is how should we enforce or encourage people to take part in the Fair Employment Charter? How should we do that? And you'll see questions on that in the consultation. But if I could now hand over to Zoe Macy, who's the Support Internship Lead at Cheshire East Council, who's going to give a brief talk and then show us a video. Zoe. Zoe, can you unmute? Now, I can see you're unmuted, Zoe, but I still can't hear you.
Councillor Corcoran, I'm going to ask Colin Jacklin to stand in. I'm just going to promote him to a panellist, okay? So just
Right,
everyone bear with us for 30 seconds.
So, Zoe, can you hear me? Okay, I can see your lips moving, but I can't hear anything, I'm afraid.
Whilst we're just waiting for Colin to join as a panellist, shall I launch another poll?
Okay.
Yeah. I'm going to share the results now.
So you've got a pretty conclusive answer to that question. So if we haven't
Colin's here now. Colin's here now.
So Colin, can I hand over to you?
Yes, that's fine. Can everybody hear me?
Yes, that's fine. Thank you.
That's great. Okay, thank you. Yeah, just to introduce myself, Colin Jacklin, Cheshire East Council. I head up the supported employment team that Zoe is a member of. I think Zoe's having some tech problems, so I'll just take this item if I may. First of all, just to say, Zoe came into post over 3 years ago now, and I made a business case for this post because when I looked at where we were with supported internships in Cheshire East, we actually had below 10 places. And for such a valuable programme, this seemed quite low to me. So I made a business case, got some external funding. Zoe came into post and has never looked back. We've now got over 40 places within the Cheshire East area. Just to explain, a supported internship is exclusively for young people with an educational healthcare plan. So this could be young people making that transition from school to the next stage with a health difficulty or autism or a learning disability. So with significant additional support needs. It's a fantastic programme. It makes a big difference to a lot of people. Intensive one-to-one support's available for them in work. And we've worked with a lot of employers, large and small, of the Cheshire East area. And we're looking at the moment about 79% conversion rate into paid sustained work within the year. So it's worked out incredibly well, and it will continue to expand in this area. I've been in this field of work now for many years, and my view has always been when you get out and talk to employers and explain that this isn't something to be afraid of, there's actually a business advantage to employing people like this, a whole kind of range of them. And of course, it can be a big help in some of the sectors recruiting with some recruitment challenges at the moment. So I think with that introduction, I think it'd be right to have a look at the video that Siemens did, who took on 3 supported interns, all now employed. So their perspective from an employer's point of view. So if we could press the play on that, that would be great.
My name's Michaela Lawton. I'm the Business Excellence Champion for Siemens and the Disability Confident Lead. Diversity in the workplace is really important to Siemens, as well as inclusion. And we're members of the government's Disability Confidence Scheme, so that's helping us as an employer to make the most of the talents that disabled people can bring to our workplace.
My name is Zoe Macy. I'm Supported Internship Lead in Cheshire East. A supported internship is a study programme for young people with an education healthcare plan. If somebody wants to work but does need support in order to access the workplace, then the supported internship is a great programme. Our 3 interns, they are all in 3 very different departments. Luke is in engineering, we have Josh who's working in catering, and we have Chloe in manufacturing. So 3 very different people, and they've had to be in the right department to make it a success, which it has been.
My name's Josh Pryor and I'm the catering assistant here at Siemens. The reason I applied for an internship was I'm now 21. It was the right time for me to get a job.
I'm Cllr Gittins and I'm doing production operation at Siemens. My normal typical days is packing things.
I am Luke Lawson and I'm an apprentice engineer working in repair for Siemens Congleton. So currently right now I've just started, so I'm doing a lot of practice. That's mainly soldering and desoldering components off scrap boards.
I was nervous. It's first job ever, but when I got there I felt calm, because I know some people there and they'll make you feel welcome, they'll treat you like a family, and I like that.
All our interns have a job coach. The whole purpose of a job coach is to help train a young person in the job that they're going to be doing. So it'll be 100% support to begin with, and then it will fade when the young person learns the job, builds up their confidence and is independent in the workplace.
Yes, the job coach was very useful for me. She got me very used to working here and working independently.
So having a job coach is very good because they help you if you don't know what you're doing and if you're unsure of something.
I was a bit struggling with that first, didn't know how. So my work coach, Becky, just showed me how to do it step by step, slowly things. And I got it all good. And I felt proud for that. People are very supportive, really nice, friendly, and I like it there. I feel safe there.
This is about learning real skills for a real job, and the success of the programme in Cheshire East has been fabulous.
Skills I've learnt here, I've built on my communication, the cooperative skills, as well as practical skills as well.
I've developed kitchen skills. I know what goes where and what needs to be done, kept everything tidy, kept everything in the right place.
Support internship has helped me, my confidence and how to keep time managing more better, and I'm very glad they've done that for me.
Feedback from parents for young people who've been on supported internship has been fantastic. As cheesy as it sounds, it is a life-changing programme. We've seen young people who have moved into paid work, have sustained paid work, who possibly would not have moved into paid work without the support from a supported internship programme.
My favourite thing about my job is meeting new people, helping others when they need help. It's been absolutely fabulous. I mean, this is my first ever actual job, proper. All the people that I've told have been really pleased about it. They've all said congratulations.
My favourite thing about the job is working with everyone, meeting new people, learning new skills. My family, they're very proud of me.
My parents are very, very proud of me getting my first job ever. They know how difficult for me. They just really proud of with me. I got here and it makes me happy to hear that.
I personally feel the scheme is fantastic. It's fantastic for young people, helping them transition into paid work that they would otherwise find quite difficult. And for Siemens, it's enabling us to attract from a new pool of talent.
To be honest, I don't know what I'm doing in future, but my future is keep myself confident, nothing to worry about, have a good pay, nice house. If I do really well here, then I will definitely stay here more.
Probably what I will spend on my first wages. My granddad once, with his first pay packet, got a watch for his dad. Now, my dad did skip out on that, but I think I might do that for him.
On holidays, for days out, for the family.
My first wages is spent on my motorbike and my bike gears, and then it makes me happy I got more money.
It's been great to work with Siemens, obviously a fabulous company, lots of different departments to work with, and it's really important that we support the employer as much as we do the young person, because the whole goal is paid work. So it's about finding the right young person with the right role, the right department, the right manager.
So to other companies, I would say, give it a go. Go ahead, take on the interns. You're not going to regret it. These are really hard-working individuals who are going to be productive immediately. They're going to have the support of a job coach and straight away are going to be adding value to your business. They're also going to have an impact on the culture of your organisation. They're going to help with teamwork, morale. People are really going to enjoy working with these young people. So give it a go.
If I sum up my supported internship in one word, it would be astonishing.
Brilliant.
Fantastic.
So thank you very much for that video, and I was pleased that we were able to see and hear Zoe in the video, even though we've had technical problems hearing her in the meeting. So thank you, Zoe. If I can now move on to the final panel discussion, which is workforce wellbeing and employee development and fulfilment, and why it matters. We've got three panelists, all business women. If I could hand over first to Maria Sarkar, who's the Vice President and owner of DriveWorks Limited. So, Maria.
Hi, thank you very much. Thanks for the introduction. Yes, interesting that you mentioned that you've got a group of us as women now presenting. It was International Women's Day just 10 days ago. And I'm really proud that here at DriveWorks, we're a technology company, software development company, headquartered in Warrington. And 30% of our workforce are actually female. And I think that mix, that diversity of having a mixed workforce has been really positive within the whole team. And especially it's quite special because we are a technology company. But one of the things that we've done ever since we started is we've had an intern program. So we've worked with local universities, with Manchester, Met, with Liverpool John Moores, gone as far as Huddersfield University, and we've looked to take on young people each year. And just in this last year, we've had 9 interns join our company. And what we're doing is we're looking for future employees. We really want to give as much as we can to those young people. And it's not just about they come and maybe they're an engineering undergrad and they learn some engineering skills here inside our business or some development skills. We're actually encouraging them in lots of other areas of the business too. So about how to run a software company, we're helping them with communication skills, whether or not it's how to work with peers, how to write emails to all of the many resellers that we have around the world, because we sell our software in 52 countries. And so English isn't the first language of those people we're communicating with. So our interns, by the time they go back to university for their final year, they've learned written skills, communication skills, so many additional skills too. And that's something that we feel has been very important. Things that we're looking for, we hire for attitude, aptitude, and then ability. And so we put a lot of effort into training and helping people whilst they're here. But it's not just about those measurable skills. There are lots of other things about life here in our business that we think are really important. So the physical environment, we've got sit-stand desks, we've got desks that make it really easy for people to collaborate and to communicate. And just recently, we've added some additional spaces too. And we wanted to have a project room so we could have people coming together from our different teams, whether or not it's sales and marketing, whether or not it's the developers, or whether or not it's people in our technical or systems team. We want to bring people together so they can communicate and achieve the best they possibly can. But we've also created a quiet space we've called it the quiet carriage, a bit like you would get on a train, because sometimes some people find it challenging to be in a noisy environment. And so they want somewhere peaceful and quiet to focus on. So those are some of the things that we do, but then there are other things as well that we have. So communal areas. So at lunchtime, there's an area called Meadowside, and we prepare food together, we eat together, we play Connect 4, we play Monopoly Deal, we maybe watch a bit of TV. And that's so much more about what coming to work is. It's not coming to work. We spend a lot of time together, and this experience is our lives. And one of the things I'm especially proud of is the fact that many of the people that we took as interns quite a few years ago have now progressed within the business and are now our current management team. So things like that are great things to aspire to. And some of the other presenters have spoken about the pledge. And we feel that the pledge is a great asset for Warrington. Bridie on our team, she has been working really closely with the pledge, talking about a role within a software development, a technology, a digital environment, and helping young people to understand what career opportunities exist. So we put together a program where we did a day in the life of a software company. And the young people got to hear from our younger people what each of the roles are, because it's not just about writing lines of code. There are so many other roles too, whether or not it's testing the software, writing a website to promote it, whether or not it's being on the phone or writing emails to our resellers around the world. So that's a very quick expose of what Life at DriveWorks is all about, and how important us having plans for all people within the business and helping them develop and feel fulfilled on a daily basis. So
thank you very much, Maria, and thank you for keeping to time. If I can now hand over to Alison Cartwright from Tiger Trailers. Alison. Would you like to unmute, Alison?
Yep, there we go. There we go. Do we have me now? Yeah. So yeah, that was brilliant for Maria. I'm not quite sure where to follow now with that, because that was fantastic and very inspiring to kind of hear from another business. Yeah, so at Tiger Trailers, we manufacture trailers, articulated HGVs, and we are a workforce of around 320 now, I think we have here. The majority of that is out in the factory. And then obviously we have our office staff as well. We are a new business here in Winsford, and we've tried really hard over the last 10 years, we'll celebrate 10 years next year, to engage sort of, because you can have a very them and us community with a factory and an office, and we really didn't want that to be, for it to be like that. So we've tried very hard in trying to engage people across the business with different things, and it's starting to have an effect now from the feedback we hear in the canteen from the ladies who are in there, and they're sort of saying, now it's starting to make a difference. Similar thing to what Maria was saying, we've developed spaces, nice comfy area in the canteen where people can, if they've been out in the factory, you don't just want to sit on a canteen chair and eat. You've got a sofa area now. Small things I think make a big difference to your work life. You're here a lot of time, like Maria said, you're here at work a lot. So you've got to have a nice environment. It's really important. We're doing our voluntary stuff into the community, and that seems to be really engaging different areas of people throughout the business, who are sort of volunteering their time to get involved with our road safety project. And you can see it's giving people something else to focus on and be part of. And I think that's a big thing about being part of a nice environment at work. It's not just about your job, it's about what the company stands for, and can I be part of that? And it's not just a select few who are doing the nice bits in a company. It's like, well, if everybody wants part of it, let us know your ideas, and yes, you can come with us into the community. And that seems to have had a big effect as well. I'm really proud of what we're doing, you know, what we're trying to achieve here. And I think the trust in it takes a long time. You know, when you first do something nice for, you know, it's kind of like, oh, well, why are you doing that? It's sort of like a bit of suspicion. But then it's that consistency. So every year to do the same things, every year to put the same things into place, and people start to trust in what you're doing, as you know, as an employer, that you do care, and that you're going to consistently care about the people that are here. I think, you know, when you take your CSR stuff for your customers and your suppliers, people want to engage with you more because they know that you're caring about your workforce and the outside community. You know, I think that's really important as well. And yeah, I think disrupting as well. You know, I kind of say it's good to disrupt. You know, you've got everybody going about their day-to-day work, and obviously the important thing is making the trailers. And then, I mean, today we've had a young man from the Prince's Trust start today on his work experience, and you know, and that's taking a little bit of a disruption while he sort of settles himself in. But that caring community, you know, the different people who are looking after him in the stores, in the factory, you can see people are proud to be part of it. They're like, oh no, this is great, you know, got somebody from the Prince's Trust. And I think it's hard to step out of your normal work, but when you start doing it, I think the magic starts happening in a company, and people's skills start coming out in a really nice way, that, you know, that they care about things, and they want to be part of it. And I think if more companies start doing more stuff, then your communities and around your company are going to be much better. So for us, I mean, there's so much I could talk about what we're involved in, and I'm very passionate about it, and wanting to kind of inspire more companies to, you know, make nice changes. Be nice. I think it's just about being nice, you know, being nice, being caring, you know, and getting that across to your workforce and your local community. So yeah, so that's sort of from my angle here at Tiger.
That's a really good point to end. If I can now hand over to Helen Pullen from Safe Opportunities, and there will be an opportunity for questions at the end. Helen.
Hello, hi, welcome everybody. Thanks very much, and that's a lot to follow on there from Alison and Maria. Thank you, Alison and Maria. It's very inspirational what you're doing within your companies. It's lovely to hear. So I just want to tell you a little bit about sort of Safe Opportunities and what we do and how we look after our staff, really. So we offer work-related learning opportunities for young people, very vulnerable young people, so a lot of cared for young people, a lot of SEN young people in the local area from age 14 up to 25. So we obviously support them and put a lot of effort into making their quality of their provision is right, and put a lot of support in there. We've got 19 staff, but three of them are males, so we're very female heavy led, but it does work, and the staff all work very well together, and they all support new employees. But it's because we've got that culture that we've set up from the very beginning, where everybody is out to support each other. And the theory we try and use is that if we care for our staff and we make things work for our staff, then they're going to look after our customers and look after our students and our young people and their families. So if we can show as a company that we're a very caring company, we adapt our job roles, we create job roles to fit around young people, around the staff and around young people that we employ, then they give the same back, because they're following that lead, aren't they? They're following that same pathway. So again, we were at the Women's Day event, which was great, and it's nice to, you know, support the female workforce and to encourage those. So we'll just talk about a couple of scenarios, a couple of situations that we've managed and dealt with so we had a member of staff who was on a coordinator role, doing very, very well, but then started to struggle with anxiety. due to things going on outside of work, not work related at all, but we did meet her. We tried to understand, tried to break it down, and it gradually got worse and escalated and got worse to the point where she had a panic attack and she couldn't do her job, and she just couldn't drive, she couldn't do her job. So she was really panicking, getting quite defensive, thinking she was going to lose her job, thinking that she couldn't do it, thinking that everybody was putting on her and putting more work on her. So what we did, we just took a step back and said, look, you know, we're not going to, we value you as a member of staff. We know this is something that's temporary, something that's going on, but we want to work with you and we want to try and make it work for you. So what we did, we looked at her skills, and she had amazing safeguarding knowledge and skills, and she was very meticulous, very good at attention to detail and record keeping and things like that. So what we did, we actually created a job role for her, which was attendance monitoring and safeguarding. And we looked at the needs of the business, and it actually fitted in really well with, we were at that stage where we did need that role to start to come through, possibly in the next few months, but actually we just brought it forward. We created that role for her so she could stay at home. She was completely home-based, but she had her own workload, and it was something that was manageable. It's something that she had the interest in, and she already had the skills in from her experience before. When we met her, I think she thought we were going to sack her, but that was never going to be the case. And we met her and we explained it to her, and she was just so relieved. You could just see, like, yes, this is something that I can manage, I can do. I'm not going to have that extra worry of my job with everything else going on. She settled into the job, absolutely loved it, and she's still doing the job role now, and she's just flourishing, she's just flying. So she all our new starters that come on, she takes them down the safeguarding journey, make sure they're fully competent. She manages all our attendance, all of our records, checks all of our system, that goes through and monitors everything, make sure that everybody's got the right record keeping in place, and she's just flourishing in the role. So it does work. There's that, you get to that stage where you think, is this going to work, and what are we going to do, and how are we going to manage this? But it's just about thinking creatively and creating job roles, I think, for people, rather than being fixated, this is the only job, this person has to fit in this box, because it doesn't always happen. Things go on in their lives that means they don't fit into boxes, so you have to just be creative. Another situation we had a young lady on a supported internship with us from September. She thought she wanted to work with young people, and she thought she wanted to work in a school, but she does have a physical disability, which would have made it very difficult for her because of the schools, the demands on school staff having to help with welfare and playgrounds and all of the physical demands. So we did get her a work placement in a school so she could explore that option, and I think she understood that actually she would have found it really challenging, and the schools weren't in the position to offer her paid work anyway, even though she was so capable. She's an A-level student, academically very, very capable, but she was incredibly confident. She's able to just speak to people that she'd never met before and go out and pick up the phone and talk to people. So we had a job role available that was starting to come through, and again I pulled it forward with our employer engagement coordinator. So we gave her the chance to try it out and explore it, and put her with our employer engagement coordinator and said, how is she getting on? She absolutely loved it. She flourished. She had no problems picking up the phone, cold calling employers, speaking out where she needs to, and just hopping on video calls. And so she started on the 27th of February and absolutely just settled completely into it. She's working at home. We set her up at home with a desktop computer and a phone, and we've got, through access to it, we've managed to arrange for her to come into the office and have funded taxis to come into the office once a week if she needs to, so she doesn't feel isolated. But she's just, she's finding brilliant placements for our other young people because she's been a supported internship. She understands it. She understands what we're looking for. And I've got other members of staff who've been with me 4 or 5 years who still struggle picking up phones to, cold call, because it's not part of their job role. But this young lady at the age of 18 has just taken to it. 19, sorry. She's just taken to it, and she's not phased at all. So she's done that. So that's worked really well, again, creating that job role for her.
Right, thank you.
So then the only other thing I was just going to say was, I know Alison was mentioning about hiring for attitude and ability, and we do that, but you also have to, I think outside the box, don't you, and create and be flexible. And for our other staff, we also do things like we offer flexi time. So there's been a lot of school strikes, and staff have got you know, we've got single parents with young children, so of course they can't just find childcare. So we've been flexible. We've allowed them to work from home on those days. We've changed their timetables around, and then in the school holidays, some of the staff had taken some odd days off, so they owed us a day. So they worked in the Christmas holidays, and they had childcare needs. So what we did, we set up our training room as a little creche, and we put a member of staff in there working just on computer work, and some of the older children were looking after the younger children, playing games and activities with them, and then the staff were able to come into work because they were there in the room next door. So, you know, it's just about being creative, thinking outside the box, thinking about the needs of your staff, and understanding that those needs of the staff change. So you might think you employ somebody for one thing, but actually their situations change, so you have to adapt your roles within their situations. So I think really that's it from ourselves. But yeah, it's just lovely to be part of this. So thank you very much for inviting me.
If anybody's got any questions for this panel, do post them into the questions and answers now. I've got one question, and I've a prepared question, but I think Alison answered it beautifully by saying, be nice. But what are the panel's tips, if you've got one or two tips, for how to promote good mental health? Because it's clearly beneficial for all in the workplace. So would any of the panelists like to say, what are your top tips for promoting good mental health in the workplace?
Yeah, I'm happy to follow this one up, because we we've had a few students who have struggled, staff members have struggled with anxiety, and there's a government-run programme called Able Futures, and it's absolutely fantastic. One of our staff member, the staff member I was talking about, who struggled with the driving and struggled with the job role, she actually signed up to this, and she now tells all the other staff members about it. If there's another staff member struggling with anxiety, she'll send an email out to the whole staff and explains how it's helped her and her journey, and then put the link on for Able Futures, and then other staff members have signed up to it because they trust this staff member. So it's sort of working, getting the company, getting everybody involved in it really, and we have conversations all about menopause, we have conversations about anxiety and everything, and it's just having that open policy, you know, open and honest policy, and nothing, we don't have anything hidden away. It's just, you know, we talk and openly discuss things as a team about different people that are struggling with things.
Right, thank you. I'll have a look at Able Futures on the internet later. Maria.
Yeah, I was just going to add something to that, all of our managers have been on a mental health awareness course, and our HR director has put together an EAP programme for the business, and our business has grown from, we had 28 people, we're now 65. We realised that we needed an HR manager to help coordinate all of the activities that we're doing as well. So our EAP programme it's a whole raft of different solutions that are available to the team, and people can log on, they can get access to lots of different resources online that they might need, but we do lots of other things as well. I've mentioned about the spaces that we've got, but encouraging people to get outside, get fresh air, step away from computers, and above all, to just be open with each other, to chat and feel comfortable with each other.
Thank you. Alison, have you got anything to add to be nice? Do you want to unmute?
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, we also have the EAP as well, Maria, and we brought that in about a year ago. What we have found with that is the trust in it. So there's obviously a lot of great resources in there, but the feedback we had on that is a lot of employees are worried that if it's sort of the confidentiality on it, it's kind of we're mainly a male business here. The majority of our staff, we only have 17 women here, and there's only 2 women on the factory, which is something that we're trying to get more women involved. But it was that confidentiality, that if I sign on to the EAP and I'm accessing sort of some of that stuff, who knows about it? And even though obviously we know it's confidential. So one thing we've done to back up that is we've brought in Mentel, which is the men's mental health charity. And at the moment we're looking, we've got managers who have done the mental health first aid, but we're looking at trying to get a Mentel person here. That's somebody again who can reassure that actually this is really good, that that Tiger have put into place. It is confidential, but I think it needs almost like it needs that extra level. It's great that we've done it. The posters are up everywhere. Everyone's got it on the phones, but nobody's really accessing the services. So I think these things that you put into place almost need a double attack at them. Everything that we do seems to, you need to have people that can relate to it or bridge that gap to make them use, hopefully get people to use things like that, and being more, I don't know, I think sort of it's good to walk out of your department, go and like chat to somebody else. And especially here with the factory, we encourage people to say, right, ask to go on a factory tour, even if you're sat in an office and that you're never ever going to go in the factory, but go on a factory tour, go and chat with the people outside, go and, have a chat about the vehicles that are being built, because it's fascinating. And it's, and you get that engagement then across the factory.
So can I just bring in Maria? She's got something to respond to on that.
Yeah, I was just going to say one extra thing, because I understand you saying about you've got a very male-dominated environment, and although we have got quite a lot of women here, we have got a lot of men as well, and just noticing the difference between men and women. And one of the nice things that some of our folks did was in November, when it's Movember, a whole group of people got together and were running to raise awareness of Movember. And I think just being able to then focus and talk about it, that was a really good starting point as well. Because I know myself, I'm more likely to be chatty and open with other people, but there are typically other people in the business who might be more reserved, but just making much more awareness that we all have from time to time. We feel ups, we feel downs. That's been a good thing, but I think it's great, the idea of the factory tour. It's just opening things up for general conversation anyway, and there are so many just day-to-day things that we can all do that can actually lift somebody's spirits and just make people feel more included as well. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt by putting my hand up.
Thank you, Maria. Now, Sarah Lynn, I think we've got time for one more poll. So do you want to put up the final poll?
Yes, I will. Hang on a second.
Thank you to Maria, Alison and Helen. Now, Sarah Lynn, I can't see the poll. Has it gone up?
Yeah, for some reason it's not working. Sorry about that.
I will start off on my final summing up, but if you do get the poll working, do just post it. So thank you everybody for attending. Please do respond to the consultation. This is the launch event for that consultation. And there are questions in there that will affect how we go forwards with this. So please do feedback. Firstly, have we got it right? Should we be doing this? And then secondly, how should we be following up on it? I mentioned before the key questions of whether we encourage or enforce over how do we get people to sign up to the Charter, and how do we make sure that they are following through on the Charter. There will be further events, but please do complete the session online. Now, Sarah Lynn, I think are you posting a link there for how people can sign up to this? And I did say before, if you just search on Cheshire and Warrington Fair Employment Charter, you do get to all the documents. So thank you very much for attending. And Sarah Lynn, is there anything you wanted to say as a final comment?
No, just to thank all the panelists and yourself and Cllr Gittins for chairing and hosting, and all the panelists. And yes, we will follow up with all the necessary links about the consultation to everyone that signed up for the event today.
Right. Thank you very much, everybody. And,
thank you.
Bye-bye.